If you want to do video game design in Java, the first thing we're going to want to do is learn how to put graphics into your programs. And so I'm going to do a very basic graphic program here. We're going to draw a circle on the screen, or maybe a rectangle, and we'll have it bounce around the screen. So just one thing to clarify, I'm going to be using an IDE called E2.JAVA. It's my preferred development environment, but this will work equally well no matter what editor you're using, whether you're using Eclipse or NetBeans. I just happen to prefer E2.JAVA. So one thing you need to know is we need to be careful about naming our files. So I can't name this graphics because one of the libraries we're going to be using is called graphics, and we'll get a namespace collision there if we try to use the same name as an existing library. So you need to be careful about naming your classes so that you're avoiding hitting another class. So I'm creating this program called DrawMe. And the first thing we need to do is look at our libraries. So there's several libraries we need. The first one is going to be the java.awt library. This library gives you all of the graphic drawing capabilities. It gives you the colors. One thing you'll notice is different from my coding style than what you might see in a lot of textbooks. I actually use the wildcard, which imports most libraries. Now the main reason why you don't want to do this is because it will slow down your compilation if you have too much, because it does include everything that's in that path, and that's a lot of stuff. But for most of the programs we're going to be working on here, it really is not that much, and it doesn't slow down your programs at all to do it with this, as long as your programs are small. So I wouldn't stress too much about that. Now another thing is about code readability, but we can talk about what elements are in what library. The second thing I want to import is javax.swing. And you may be asking, why is there an X in the Java? Well, that's a throwback from the early days of Java, and they started adding the graphics, and this was a new graphics package that specifically allowed them to create Windows. So it was a lightweight Windows interface, and this is basically what allows you to create your toolbars and whatnot. And they thought, well, this is an extension to Java, and that's why what the X in Java X means. So again, swing is going to give us our components like buttons and boxes and window frames and things like that. And then finally, the last thing we're going to need is the event library from java.awt. And the reason we're going to do that is to do our animation, we need the action listener class. So there's only ever one public class in a Java file, and it needs to match the file name. So here I have my public DrawMe, and my file name is called DrawMe. Alright, inside here, every Java program needs a main method. So public static void main. Okay. Now I tend not to use my main methods, and what I'm going to do, I'm just going to create a new instance of the DrawMe class. So what is this for? Well, the DrawMe class is actually going to be our window. Okay. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to create this window as a JPanel. And the JPanel is basically like a window component that you can put things in. And in this case, what we're going to use, that's the actual canvas that we're going to draw to. Okay? And so what I want to do is I want to go ahead and set my size. To set the size of these things, you set preferred size. And that is a dimension, and this is actually a quirk that I don't like about Java, is it requires you to do this as a dimension, but you know, whatever it takes to make it work, right? Alright, and then I want a background color here, and I'm just going to do the background in black. Okay, so now that is my canvas, and I need a place to store my canvas. So I need to create a JFrame to store it. Okay, and the text that I just put in here, that's going to be the title that shows up in the title bar of your window. You can put anything in there that you want. Okay, let's go ahead and add this JPanel to the frame. Okay, and then pack what pack does is it shrinks the frame around the size of our J panel. Our J panel is 640 by 480, so that means that the frame will be just large enough to hold one panel that's 640 pixels wide and 480 pixels tall. And if we added other panels in there, it would take those into account as well. Okay, so here we have some basic stuff, and all right. Oh, and I forgot to name this as a class. So we go in here, we say class. There we go, and everything is all nice and tidy now. So compile it, and remember to compile and run frequently. All right, let's go ahead and run this program. And I have my graphics window with a black background. Okay, so the next step is we need to set it up so that we can put our ball on the screen. So first thing I want to do is create a location for that. So let's just kind of put it somewhere near the middle of the screen. Alright, so middle screen is going to be about 300 by 240. And let's go ahead and put in the speed for it too. I know that I'm going to want it to be 4 by 4. Okay, I'm not going to use those just yet. Okay, so the next thing I need to do is to draw to the J panel, you override its paint component method. And we do that by creating a new function or method called paint component. Yes. Okay. So now I can do all my drawing in here and it'll draw directly to that panel. So the first thing I want to do is call the paint component from the original J panel, and what that'll do is that it will automatically repaint the background very quickly. Doing it yourself, you would slow down your program, cause an enormous amount of flicker. It'd be really ugly. Right. So that's the first thing we're going to do. The second thing we're going to do, we need to change the color, and I'm going to change it to green. And then we're going to draw. Let's go ahead and do it as a circle. So we're going to draw an oval. I'm going to do it at XY, and let's make this a 50 by 50, and so that should draw us a circle. So again, we're going to compile this and run it. Okay, and there's your circle. I would say when you draw it, it's just going to do the outline. I actually want it to fill it in, so instead of draw, that's going to be fill. Okay, I said I wanted this thing to move. So to move it, we need to add a timer. Alright, so I'm going to come underneath where I created my frame and add a timer. Okay, and I'm going to do this in a kind of weird way. So our timer takes two parameters. The first one is the number of milliseconds it should wait before update, and I like to set mine to 5. You can set it to 1 if you want to, but it's not guaranteed. In fact, most Java programs only have a resolution of 50 milliseconds, which means that's as accurate as it can be. It can be slower, but and it can be faster, but occasionally, but it can only guarantee 50 milliseconds. So, just a point to keep into consideration. Okay, so what I need to do then, I'm going to create an inner class here, and what that means is I'm going to create a new action listener, and this action listener is going to be what we're going to use to listen for that. And what we can do when you create an inner class, you're just creating it's an anonymous class. When I create an anonymous class here, it's like I had written the class there, but it doesn't have a name, and it gets thrown away pretty much once we make it. Okay, and so I'm going to declare its function in here, and that's the action performed function. Okay, and what we're going to do is I'm going to create a function called update. I'm going to call it from here, and then I'm going to have it repaint the screen after it updates. Okay, so let's go ahead and create that update function here. Okay, and what we want to do in the update is we're going to add the speed to X and Y. Okay, and we're going to run that. and I forgot to start the timer. So I create the timer here, and then I need to start the timer. Okay, so now let's try that. There we go. It moved off the screen pretty quickly. So let's go ahead and try and keep it on the screen. So if our x is greater than the width of the screen, which here would be 640, then what we want to do is we're going to say x is equal to 640 because we want to keep it on the screen, and we're going to say dx times equals -1. So it's going to travel in the opposite direction. Okay. If y is greater than 480, so it's going to be the bottom of the screen, y equals 480, and dy times equals -1. So this is going to bounce it off the bottom. And then we also need to do the same thing off the top. So if x is less than 0, x equals 0, dx times equals -1. And then if y is less than 0, y equals 0, dy times equals -1. Okay, so now let's try this. And it bounces, but you'll notice that it bounces off the screen. And what you're going to need to do to fix that is to account for the width of it, because the x and y that we're drawing it at is the top left corner of the shape. So if we actually say if x plus 50 is greater than 640, then minus 50, okay, plus 50, minus 50, okay, and this should keep it on the screen. And there you go. So yeah, think about how you might use this to create your own programs, come up with your own interesting ideas for graphics that you might want to make. And this is a great starting point. And always remember, coding is such a rewarding activity. It's so much fun. And just go out there, create things, and have fun. Thank you.